try again. Okay, so it's on now.
All right, sir.
Right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Apologies for the slight hitches. Let me just get started now by sharing my screens. Right. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, sir, we can. You are good to go, sir.
All right, thank you very much. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Ma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure to be in your midst today and to talk about proactive measures in dealing with depression among Muslims. I work in Ibadan at the University College Hospital, Ibadan, and I'm also the founder of Asido Foundation, which is a not-for-profit mental health advocacy awareness creating organization. And our website is there, www.asidofoundation.com. We are behind time, so I'm going to move a little fast. So this is the outline. We'll cover basic concepts first, and then talk about the burden of mental health issues, focus on depression as well as suicide, which tends to go hand in hand with it. And after that, more importantly, it's not enough to understand what the issues are. We also need to know what can we do? What proactive measures should we take, especially as Muslims? And lastly, a call to action and then a conclusion. So with respect to the basic concepts, health, as we all know, remembering from secondary school, defined by the World Health Organization as a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. Please note that definition, complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. Is there any one of us here that is in complete physical health? The answer is no, because some of us are using glasses, some of us may be having headache, some may be having some abdominal discomfort as we are sitting and participating in this meeting now. So nobody is 100% completely healthy physically. In the same way, nobody is 100% mentally healthy, and nobody is 100% socially healthy. What therefore this means is that this definition is an aspiration that we aspire to improve our health every day in terms of our physical health, our mental health, as well as our social well-being. So it's not just when you are sick or you have a disease or you have an infirmity that you are, it's not just when you don't have diseases or infirmity that you are in good health. No, it's actually a state where you are always promoting and aiming to achieve as optimal as possible state of physical, mental, and social well-being. Of course, you know that our focus is on the mental aspects of health. Now, deriving from that definition is the fact that the three components of health are not mutually exclusive. They are rather very closely interwoven and interrelated. And that's why I've depicted it here with this use of GS. So you find that mental health interfaces with our physical health, which interfaces with our social health, and they are all closely interwoven in that manner. So you may have someone who have a physical health problem. For instance, we had a young doctor some time ago who had an accident, motor accident, injured his neck, became paralyzed from his shoulders downwards. I would call that quadriplegia. That's complete paralysis from his neck downwards. Means that he could not move his finger. He couldn't do anything. Of course, that's a physical injury. Is that not so? But nobody will be happy in that type of condition for a young man to suffer such an injury and realize that for the rest of his or her life, he cannot do anything for himself. They have to clean him up if he wants to use the toilet. They have to feed him. They have to do everything for him, bathe for him on the bed. And so he cannot stand, he cannot sit, he can't do anything. So individuals such as that young man may become very depressed. And they may also have social problems. For instance, again, if your diagnosis is cancer and you have to do chemotherapy, radiotherapy, all sorts of a lot of treatments that are very, very, very expensive. The individual may become depressed. They may end up having to sell their assets to raise money to be able to look after their physical health. So physical health problems can affect mental health, can affect social. If you turn it upside down, it will still be true. If you have someone who is working in an office, that's a social problem, where the work environment is very toxic. Every time you are going to the office, your heart is beating fast, you are worried, you don't know what will happen in the office. That social problem can lead to you developing physical problems. Your blood pressure, for instance, can go up and you become hypertensive because of the hostile nature of your work environment. You may also develop mental health complications such as anxiety or depression, primarily from a toxic work environment. So the points I want us to clearly understand is that these three components of health are very closely interdependent, interwoven, and one affects the other and vice versa. Now let's focus on mental health. Mental health, again as defined by the WHO, is the state of well-being in which every individual is able to carry out four clear roles. The first role is to fulfill your own potential. And what this means is, with respect to fulfilling your potential, or each and every one of us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, Allah has created us unique and different from every other person. There is no photocopy anywhere. Even if you're identical twins, your fingerprints will be unique to you, will be different. So no two human beings that is Bani Adama from time immemorial till Yawmul Qiyamah will have the same fingerprint, never. So each and every one of us is unique, a unique creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means that our potentials are also unique to us. What I may be good at, somebody else may not be very good at it. What somebody else is very good at, I may be poor at it. So each and every one of us, how do we fulfill the unique potentials that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us? It is dependent on our mental health. The second one is the ability to cope with the normal stress of day-to-day life. What this means is that whoever you are, if you are Dangote or you are President Buhari, you face stress. Some people's stress is that they've not found somebody to marry them. Some people's stress is that their marriage is not happy. Some people's stress is that they have too many children, according to them. Some people's stress is that they don't have any child. Some people's stress is they don't have money. The stress for another person is they have too much money, and because of that, they are uncomfortable that people are disturbing them, right? So someone like Dangote's problem may be, I want to expand to 10 other African countries, but I don't have the money. So he wants to raise money. So what is clear is that every human being, as long as you are alive, you are going to experience stress. And WHO calls it normal stress of day-to-day life. However, your ability to cope with the unique stress that you are experiencing in your life is a reflection of your mental well-being. The third one is the ability to work productively. And the last one is to participate meaningfully in the community. So before we proceed, let's get this very clearly. If you have someone who is not fulfilling his or her potential, who is struggling to cope with the normal stress of the person's unique lifestyle, who is not able to work productively, whether as a student in terms of academic performance or as a worker, whichever capacity you are working, and your interpersonal relationships in the community, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your neighbors, your relationship with colleagues at work is terrible. Everybody, you are quarreling with everybody and so on. Even if the person is well dressed, speaks Queen's English, and does everything very well, this inability to carry out these four rules, what it is telling us is that that person is not enjoying good mental health. I hope we get it clear, because once we hear mental health, we imagine that, oh, it's only when somebody is roaming the streets naked. That is when the person has mental health problem. That is not true. It may simply be that you are performing below your potential. You are struggling to cope with your life's challenges. Your work is not productive, and you are not interacting well with other people. This may be the pointers that you have a mental health problem. It may be anxiety, it may be depression, but everything is not all right with you mentally if you are not able to carry out these four rules. So let me move on quickly. So what is mental illness? These are health conditions involving changes in our thinking, in our emotion, in our behavior, or a combination of all of these factors, which leads to distress or problems functioning in social, work, or family activities. So in some instances, all you will notice is that the individual is struggling and having problems in their day-to-day functioning, in their social life, in their family life, in their work or occupational life, even when it is not clear that they are behaving abnormally openly. Okay, so I'm stressing this so that we are very clear that it is not only when someone is naked and roaming the streets that the person has mental health problems. No, it may just simply be that the person is not functioning well. Now, what this slide shows is if you look at mental health as this ball on the left and mental illness as the ball on the right, nobody is at zero in terms of mental illness and nobody is at 100%. All of us are at various points along this line in between. And what we all try to do is to, as much as possible, move closer to 100% and further away from zero. That is what all of us continuously should strive to achieve. It should also be very clear to us before we proceed that our brain is responsible for all our higher functioning, our thinking, our intelligence, our behavior, memory, mood, whether we are happy or we are sad. It is our brain that is responsible for all of these functions. And how does this brain work? It works in two ways. It uses electricity along the nerves of the brain. From one end of the nerve to another, there's an electric current that is generated. Between nerves, however, it uses chemicals. Okay, so the brain works using electricity as well as chemicals. A disease of electrical activity in the brain will be epilepsy, while diseases of the level of chemicals in the brain will be mental health problems. So it's very important for us to have this understanding clearly. Of course, this is contrary to what African Magic and Nollywood portrays, where everybody that has a mental illness is as a result of somebody that did money ritual that backfired or sent something to the person, and according to African Magic, if they go to hospital, the doctors and nurses will say, we've done all the tests, we did not see anything. Okay, and that is a sort of unconscious conditioning that it is not a medical problem and it is not treatable in hospital. And I want us to correct that, because as Muslims, we know that there is no illness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created that He has not created a cure or a treatment for, except we don't have the knowledge. And for this, we already have the knowledge of the various types of mental health problems and how to intervene and solve them and treat them. Important to also appreciate that mental health problems are different types. Some are mood problems, some are anxiety, and so on and so forth. They also occur from children to the elderly. In children, we have conditions like autism, conditions like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, where the child is very, very extremely restless, hyperactive, cannot concentrate on anything. Many children can be restless and inattentive for some time, but the type we call attention deficit is grossly above normal. Okay, so these are conditions that occur in children. In adults, we have depression, psychosis, and many others that can occur in adults. Then in the elderly, similar to what we know as Muslims, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take us from when we were young to the peak of our physical health. And then as we grow older, He will reverse us back to the state of when we were children. So in the elderly, the nerves of the brain becomes weaker and weaker. Their memory becomes poorer and poorer. And in severe cases, we call it dementia. So that is a problem in the elderly. Mental health problems also have gender differences. For instance, depression is commoner in women, ratio 2:1. Drug abuse is commoner in men. So there are also gender differences. But regardless of how much money you have, regardless of your tribe, whether you're a Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba, regardless of the extent of your iman, whether you're a Muslim, Christian, or an atheist, regardless of whether you're educated or not, anybody can suffer from a mental health problem. How do we then distinguish what is normal from what is abnormal? Three criteria help us to distinguish them. The first one is severity of symptoms. So for instance, if I buy a new Toyota Venza, I don't know how much they are selling it, maybe 7 million or 8 million. Let's say I take a loan, save money, buy a Toyota Venza. And a week after I buy it, armed robbers come and snatch it away from me. Of course, I will not be happy, right? But if I become so unhappy that I'm crying all the time, refusing to eat food, refusing to sleep because my car has been stolen, that is severity. Then that will no longer be normal. The next is duration of symptoms, how long they last. If my car is stolen and I'm unhappy for a day or two or 1 week or two, is that is still normal. But if I refuse to go to work for 1 month because my car was stolen, that is because of that long duration. People will be sympathetic initially, but after a while, persons will suffer from a mental health problem in their lifetime. So for us in Nigeria, with an estimated population of 200 million, that means 50 million Nigerians at some point in time in their lifetime will suffer from a mental health problem. And we know that in an average family size, you have a father, mother, and at least 2 children. So what that means is that out of every family, every household, there will be at least one person who is at risk of developing a mental health problem at some point in time during their lifetime. Let's just move on because of time. So that's what I'm mentioning again here in this slide. So let's now focus on depression and suicide. Everyone has good days and bad days. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're not happy. That is normal. Remember the criteria between normal and abnormal: severity, duration, how long it lasts, as well as affecting your day-to-day functioning. So our mood is never static. It goes up and down naturally for everybody. And so that's it. Those three criteria distinguish it. So depression is a mood disorder that is characterized by excessive and long-standing feelings of overwhelming sadness. So the sadness is excessive, severe, and overwhelming. Okay. The second is they feel tired all the time. Even to get out of bed is too much work. They can't bring themselves, they can't manage to do anything. Number three is that all the things they used to enjoy doing before, they completely lose interest in them. Not interested in doing so, they don't have motivation. No motivation, no drive to do anything. Other symptoms include crying for no reason, feeling guilty and responsible for all the bad things that are going on, again, unjustifiably, feeling hopeless, feeling worthless, not interested in eating food, reduced libido, not sleeping well, difficulty, they simply cannot pay attention and concentrate on anything. And then they feel that they are not good enough, so they have low self-esteem. They may have suicidal thoughts where they feel that they are going through such emotional pain that they simply just want to sleep and not wake up again. And that is the beginning of suicidal thoughts. They may also become withdrawn from society and become isolated. To make the diagnosis of depression, you must have at least 5 of these symptoms severe enough and lasting continuously for more than 2 weeks. Okay? And affecting your day-to-day functioning. We know that it is the commonest mental disorder globally, and it affects about 350 million people in Nigeria's population. Again, it can affect everybody. It's a misconception, very important to clarify this, that it's not only when something bad happens to you that you can develop depression. No, anybody can suffer from depression the same way anybody can suffer from malaria, anybody can have a car accident. It has nothing to do with when something bad happens to you. However, when something bad or negative happens to you, it may be a risk factor. It may be the trigger but even when you appear to have a perfect life, you may still suffer from depression. It is a burdensome disease condition in the world. Sorry, it just restarted automatically. I don't know what happened. So let me just continue quickly. Okay. So I was saying that the analogy of is similar to the analogy of wearing dark sunshades. When you wear a dark sunshade, even if it's very sunny outside, suddenly everywhere will look dark. That is what happens with depression, that it sort of covers your face and it appears like everything in your life is bleak, is gloomy, there's nothing good in your life. And so you experience a lot of emotional pain and misery. Okay. In some instances, this emotional pain is so severe, and that is when individuals begin to have suicidal thoughts, unfortunately. So suicide is a common complication of depression. We know that 80 to 90% of those who end up committing suicide have background depression. And it was declared as a public health emergency in 2012 by the WHO because every 40 seconds, someone somewhere in this planet will have taken his or her own life via suicide. It is the second most common cause of death among young persons. In the UK, every 4 days, an undergraduate dies from suicide every 4 days. We are also seeing this trend now in Nigeria. Again, the commonest risk factor is mental illness, especially depression. So the way we look at suicide, therefore, is that it's an avoidable loss of precious human life. Because if we know that depression is the major risk factor, 80 to 90% of the time is as a result of depression, then if we identify individuals who are depressed, treat them early, then you will avoid suicidal thoughts and suicidal behavior. So this is again is it. So the risk factors for depression are biological, psychological, and social. The biological ones, low levels of chemicals in the brain. There are chemicals in the brain responsible for our mood, for our happiness or our sadness. When the levels are very low, they cause depression. Family history of depression. If you have family history of depression, you are at a higher risk of developing it. Let me quickly explain this before we even get to question and answer. That does not mean that it's automatic. The same way we should understand it is if you have family history of hypertension or family history of diabetes, what that means is that you are at a higher risk of developing hypertension, of developing diabetes than somebody else whose family does not have that history. But it's not automatic that once your parents have hypertension and diabetes, you must have it. So when we talk about family history of depression too, it's not automatic that once your mother or your father had depression, you must also become depressed in future. No, it's just that you have a higher risk than somebody who does not have that family history. Then female gender, I mentioned earlier that ratio 2:1 is commoner in females. So female gender is a biological risk factor for developing depression. Chronic or serious physical illness, such as cancer or stroke, also increases the risk of developing depression. How about psychological risk factors? Adverse childhood experiences. What that means is losing your parent when you are very young, being having child abuse when you are young, all of this trauma, or your parents being divorced, or witnessing domestic violence in your house, all of these things in childhood are together called adverse childhood experiences. They increase individuals who have a lot of these experiences in childhood have a higher risk of becoming depressed when they become adults. Those who naturally have low self-esteem, some personality types, when you are bereaved and you lose somebody who is very close to you, that may be a trigger that may psychologically tilt you into having depression. Traumatic experiences like rape, kidnapping, armed robbery, witnessing a killing may also tilt somebody into becoming depressed. Social factors too, like heavy financial losses, bullying of children in school, in secondary school and all of that, having a bad relationship, a bad marriage, poor family relationships, all of these are social factors that may also increase the risk of developing depression. Then toxic work environment and poverty. So now we've talked about the problem. Let's now focus on what can we do. I'm going to address this by talking about 5 general proactive steps and then 5 specific steps that we can take. So the general proactive steps for everyone and especially for us as Muslims. This is a picture I got online that says Islam teaches us to be inquirers. Okay, and what this verse from Surah Al-Anbiya is saying is, Fas'alu ahla zikri in kuntum la ta'lamun. So ask those who have knowledge if you do not know. So for all of us as Muslims, we need to acquire knowledge and understanding. There's also this Hausa proverb that may tambaya baya bata. The person who asks for directions will not get lost. So for us as Muslims, we need to acquire knowledge about mental health, about depression, so that we know how to take proactive steps. Number one is that depression is a medical disorder. It's a disease of the brain. It is treatable. Number two, don't trivialize it. Don't say, come on, just snap out of it. If somebody is having diarrhea and is running to the toilet, will you tell him to come on, just snap out of it? He will poo-poo on himself if he doesn't run to the toilet very quickly. So if someone has depression, don't trivialize it. Recognize that it's a medical disorder that requires treatment and offer the treatment for it. Okay, life may seem perfect, yet somebody may suffer from depression. And the example is, I'll give the examples below. This is Professor Mayosi, Dean of Health Sciences at the University of Cape Town. He died in 2018 from suicide. Very successful professor at the age of 54 with a lot of grants and international recognition, yet he ended up dying from suicide. So the reason I'm mentioning these examples is for us to delete that idea that if your life is good, you have a job, you have a family, you are comfortable, why will you become depressed? That doesn't follow. Robin Williams is a popular comedian, and he said, I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it's like to feel absolutely worthless, and they don't want anybody else to feel like that. Depression is not lack of Iman. It's not a reflection of whether you have Iman or not. If you have a car accident, is it lack of Iman? If you suffer from malaria, is it lack of Iman? If you're asthmatic or diabetic, is it because you don't have Iman? Of course not. And again, the example of diarrhea I mentioned earlier. So, or if somebody has a fracture and the leg is broken and bleeding, will you tell him to come on, get up and walk, even when you see that his leg is broken? No, you would rather take the person for treatment. So similarly, we should recognize that depression can be a potentially deadly mental health problem that requires a lot of attention. We need to have better understanding around the concept of emotional pain. We are all very familiar with physical pain and injuries. And if somebody is using crutches and the leg looks swollen, we all say, yeah, sorry, what happened to your leg? We show empathy and support for it. But because emotional pain is invisible and we don't really understand it, we don't pay attention to it and we are not as sympathetic. But even though it is less visible, if you pay attention, you will see it. You will see symptoms when it is there. Unfortunately, many family members today are simply housemates. They are just sleeping under the same roof. They don't really know what's going on in the lives of their spouses or their children. And if you don't know, if you're not close to somebody, you will not know when they are going through emotional pain. Step 2, spend quality time with your family. I cannot emphasize this enough, but it's self-explanatory. Step 3, invest in human relationships. Value and invest in nurturing relationships with other people. Even a smile is sadaqah, as we all know. And you don't know what the person next to you is going through. Imagine if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us such that we have a placard on our chest and a placard on our back that has all our problems. Let's assume I'm giving this lecture now, and on my chest you can read broke and in serious debt, marriage in tatters and miserable about it, unable to keep up with demands at the office, struggling with low self-esteem, grieving the loss of a loved one. struggling academically in school with low grades. I imagine all of us are carrying placard with all our problems. We will suddenly become more compassionate if you can see that, only you have 50 problems. When me, I have only 5. Okay, let me pity you. But because these problems are not on a placard and you can't see it, the only way you can appreciate it is when you show kindness to the next person and you are close to them. Then you can know the problems they have. Again, Robin Williams. I should mention that Robin Williams eventually ended up taking his own life via suicide too. But this is what he had to say. I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel alone. So this again, because as human beings, we are social animals. That's the fitra that Allah has created us with. And so when you do not invest in human relationships and you don't have people around you, it takes its toll on you. We often take our loved ones, our spouses, our children for granted. And that is a very big mistake. When you perform an act of charity or kindness to somebody else, 3 things will happen. 1, Allah will reward you. 2, your brain will release oxytocin and other chemicals, which will make you feel better. It will improve your mood. So you're actually helping yourself. And thirdly, the person you have helped will also feel happy too, will also be encouraged. And I intentionally left that last so that you are not doing good with the intention of letting the person say thank you. Because you're actually helping yourself when you do acts of charity and kindness. And for us, step 4, as Muslims, Allah has told us very clearly in Surah Al-Baqarah that أعوذ بالله من الشيطان بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. Allah says, we are going to try you with many things: fear, hunger, decrease in wealth, and loss of lives and crops and so on. But give glad tidings to those who are patient. So this 4th step is that for us as Muslims, we expect that our life is never going to be smooth sailing. Allah has not promised us that. We will have challenges. However, how we deal with it, whether we are patient or not, this is where our iman and the social support we have comes in. We need to be prepared for this trial. And Allah has also told us again, still with this in Surah Al-Mulk, that huwa allazi khalaqal mauta wal hayata liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala. He has just created life and death, and what is in between is our life, simply to test us which of us will be best in character. So at the end of the day, trials and tribulations come from Allah, difficulties, coping with the normal stress. You remember what WHO was saying, that the second attribute of good mental health is the ability to cope with normal stress. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also told us, that you are going to face stress, you are going to face challenges, you have to learn to deal with it. Number 5, be merciful to yourself. There's this hadith Qudsi that says, Ar-Rahimuna yarhamuhumur Rahman, irhamu man fil ard yarhamukum man fis sama. That's the most merciful. Show mercy, and the most merciful will show mercy to you. Show mercy to the creatures on the earth, and he who is in the heavens, that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will also show mercy to you. And you remember what I said earlier, that when you do acts of kindness, acts of charity, your body actually releases chemicals that make you feel better. So you're actually also helping yourself, and then you earn Allah's mercy. The other issue is that we sometimes are too harsh on ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves as well as forgive others. If you keep piling grudges, you can never be happy. You'll be miserable all the time, and you will fall into depression. And Allah has told us in the Quran, in Surah Al-Zamar, Kul ya ibadi allazina asrafu ala anfusihim la taqnatu min rahmatillah inna allaha yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Allah says, tell my servants, those who have exceeded all boundaries in sinning against themselves, asrafu ala anfusihim, that when you sin, you're actually sinning against your own soul. La taqnatu min rahmatillah. Never lose hope, never despair of the mercy of Allah. Why? Because in Allah, yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a. It is Allah who forgives all, jami'a. All sins, Allah forgives it. Innahu huwal ghafurun rahim. And this is where Allah is different from us. He not only forgives us, that is Ghafurun Rahim. He shows us mercy. So if Allah, who are we not to forgive other human beings and not to forgive ourselves? So this is the step 5 of the generic steps to ensure we are not depressed. The good principles is number 1, listen and pay attention. If you suspect that somebody is not enjoying good mental health, listen to them, pay attention to them, ask about how they are feeling. You can tell them clearly, I'm worried about you, I'm a bit concerned. Are you sure you are okay? What is the problem? Okay, is it something you want to discuss with me, and so on? And you can ask them how they are feeling, what their thoughts are, and that if they are having suicidal thoughts, don't be afraid to ask. Sometimes when you ask, it gives them the window of opportunity to feel free to talk about it, and then you can assess whether this is a dangerous situation or not. Show concern and offer support. We know that there are randomized controlled trials, a type of very high evidence research studies that have shown that simply having somebody come and knock on your door, I hope you are fine, I hope there's no problem, I've not seen you in a week, I just say I should come and check on you. That alone is better than nothing, even when people have depression. Having somebody show concern, ask after your well-being is better than nothing. So show concern and offer support. It's always very useful. Encourage them to stay busy and engaged. If somebody is feeling depressed, isolation is bad. You want them to be up and about. You want them going to the office. You want them coming to attend programs. You don't want them to just lock themselves in their room and be thinking the negative thoughts. No, that is not helpful. And encourage them to seek professional help if you think that these symptoms are serious. Okay, that's also very important. So let's now go to, so I want to mention these 5 steps as 5 P's so that it's easy for us to remember. 5 P's. The first P is psychoeducation. Psychoeducation is just big grammar. What it simply means is offer hope and encouragement. Hope and encouragement, as well as provide them with reassuring information. What kind of information? Tell them that, oh, depression is a common problem. If the person is female, that's not surprising. It's commoner in women, but you will recover. It's very easy to treat and you are going to recover. It's like somebody having malaria and worrying, will I recover from this malaria? Of course, any doctor will laugh. What do you mean? Malaria, you will recover, of course. Okay, so if you give them this information, you give them hope and encouragement that they will get better and so on. And you need to be confident because, as I've mentioned earlier, simply checking on people without any training to ask, how are you doing there, has been shown to be beneficial in reducing depressive symptoms. So the first P is psychoeducation. Talk to them, reassure them, give them hope that they will recover. The second P is psychosocial mobilization. Again, big grammar, but it means bring other people around. Don't do it alone. If the person is your family member, involve other family members to say, this person is feeling a bit down, or let's all try and encourage this person. Because the more the merrier. If you are the only one, if you now get busy and you don't have time for 1 week, the person will feel abandoned. But if 3 or 4 of you are checking in on the person will even feel more loved, more cared for, and so on. Okay, so it's like the wheel of a tire, or the wheel of a bicycle. You know, it has many spokes. So you want to reconnect them to several spokes so that they have many people supporting them and connecting with them. So that's the second P. The third P is psychosocial stressor. If there is a psychological problem or a social problem, for instance, you know, it's commoner in women. So let's assume there's a Muslim sister who is depressed, and the part of the risk factor is that the husband is always beating her. No amount of psychotherapy and antidepressants will make her come out from the depression if the husband continues to beat her. So you have to identify what are the stressors, if there are stressors, because there may be no stressors. If there are stressors, and you have to intervene to try and remove or downplay or eliminate that stressor so that it enhances their ability to recover. So that's the third P. The fourth P is regular physical exercise. This does not mean you have to go to the gym. No. Working out, going for a stroll, having some exercise, staying busy, walking around the house, going to work, going to the shop, all of this is part of regular exercise. When you do that, it keeps you busy and it keeps you distracted. It is very helpful. What we don't want completely is for the person to withdraw and be alone. The last P is professional help and proper follow-up. If symptoms persist and the person is not getting well, you've been trying your best to encourage the person and so on, that is the stage where you have to ensure that they get professional evaluation from a mental health professional. Remember that depression is a chronic condition that lasts for a long time. So treatment also lasts for a long time, for several months, and they need regular follow-up. So this call to action is on behalf of the Acido Foundation, as well as extension of this lecture, that we can't just keep talking about this problem without appreciate what are the barriers. Why are people not coming forward when they have problems? Why do people hide it away? The problem is because of ignorance and superstitious beliefs, as well as shame, stigma, and discrimination. How would they hear that I have a mental health problem? How would they hear that my wife is depressed, or that my daughter is depressed, or my son has depression, or we have to go and see a psychiatrist? All of this is largely due to ignorance, shame, and stigma. And that's why people will not come forward, even when they need professional help. And we should not continue like that. And this is about WHO saying mental health is everybody's business. If we succeed, everyone benefits. If we fail, everyone pays for it. And Glenn Close, who is a mental health advocate from the US, says what mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, more unashamed conversations. And I add this to say, together, let's ensure that this new decade of the 2020s opens a new chapter of better understanding around mental health challenges in our country. And I'm happy that NASFAT is proactive to also choose a mental health topic and to invite me to talk about this, which is part of focusing attention on our mental health needs. And I think we are on the right track. So the Acido Foundation launched a campaign called Unashamed 2020 campaign on the 1st of August 2020. And what we invite you to do is to visit our website and take a pledge that you will not discriminate against persons with mental health problems. You will encourage them, you will support them, and you will show empathy and understanding to them. And to sign up for that pledge, you visit www.acidofoundation.com/unashamed 2020. We are aiming to have 1 million people take that pledge by October 2021. So please help us. Visit the page, take the pledge, and invite other people to also do the same. We also have a helpline at the Acido Foundation. If you want to talk to a mental health professional, please send us a message via SMS or WhatsApp to this number, 0902 8080-416. And one of our mental health professionals, you will be sure that you are speaking to a professional. When you call, the person picking the call is an admin staff. That is not the person that will answer you. The person is simply going to take your request and then inform one of our mental health professionals to call you back. We will use our credit to call you back, and it is 100% for free. That is our contribution to providing basic professional intervention to anybody who needs it. So for all of us here, if you know somebody who needs to speak to a mental health professional, please let them call us on our line and we will get back to you. So in conclusion, it is in our hands to pay more attention to our health holistically. Physical health by staying healthy, eating well, sleeping, exercising regularly. Our mental health, we can do something about it. Remember the 5 generic steps I mentioned earlier, as well as the 5 P's: psychoeducation, psychosocial mobilization, eliminating psychosocial stressors, physical exercise, as well as professional help when you need it. If we do all of these things, we will promote our good mental health, as well as our social health. Bond with family, connect with your friends, spend quality time with them, and inshallah, we will have a good mental health and health generally in functioning. If you want more mental health tips, please follow Acido Foundation on our social media handles at Acido Foundation, our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram. We also have a Telegram community where we have monthly lectures on mental health. Stay sane and safe through COVID-19. We are having a second wave now. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah. Jazakumullahu khairal jaza. We really appreciate your lecture. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to count this among your goodness in this world and to reward you in full in the year after. Once again, we say Jazakumullahu khairal jaza on behalf of NASFAT and the organizers of this training. Alhamdulillah, today we have quite some time, and I am sure our lecturer will attend to our questions. So I don't know if you can, if you have access to taking those questions, or you'd like me to read those questions. Some questions, we already have some questions dropped in the chat box. Would you like me to read the questions out, or you want to take them one after by yourself, sir?
Okay, on the question and answer, it's only one question there, but the chat room has quite a number. So maybe if you can help me pick from the chat room, that will be helpful, please.
All right, okay. Before I go further, Imam Anima Shaun, I can see your hand up. Imam Anima Shaun is the NASFAT Dawa officer, the secretary to the mission board. Imam Anima Shaun, would you like to say something quickly before we start taking our questions? Can someone quickly help unmute Imam Anima Shaun? I would like him to, can see his hands up. We have another hand, but please, pardon me, I wouldn't want us to ask our questions orally. I would like us to drop our questions in the chat box, please, or question box.
Read from the chat box. Read from the chat box.
Okay, I was waiting to take Imam Anima Shaun's.
Read from the chat box.
Let me quickly take the first one. Sorry. Okay, I'll take this. Sir, what should one do if an identified victim of depression refuses help or refuses to visit a doctor? Would you like that I take all these questions or one after the other? Should I take all of them? You note them down and take and respond to them all?
Maybe let me take them in batches, maybe three.
Okay, that's the first one. Please, can we get the soft copy? You are going to get the soft copy of the lecture and the video recording on our LMS. Please note that. Okay, this person says, I wish other types of mental disorders could be addressed apart from depression. Yes, there's, we are working on that. We can't take all of them at once. So inshallah, very soon, you'll get to see our adverts as regards that. Now, another question is, what will you do if the affected person is not ready to draw himself or herself out of the situation? You are willing to help, but the person is not willing to draw himself or herself out, not willing to help himself. Then the last one, how do I identify when I have someone close to me has a mental health issue? Okay. So maybe you take those three first.
All right. So let me just start from the last one. Thank you very much. How do you identify when somebody close to you has a mental health problem? The way to identify it, you remember I said that three things distinguish what is normal from what is abnormal. The first one is severity of symptoms. All of us have times when we are not happy, when we are sad, and so on. All of us, sometimes if you are in the house, sometimes it's as if somebody knocked on the door. You go and open the door and there's nobody there. So that can happen to all of us. But if you are hearing somebody knocking every 5 minutes and you are checking and there's nobody there, or somebody is calling your name every 2 minutes and nobody is talking, then that is severity. Okay, so severity is the first thing you notice. The second thing you notice is duration, how long the problems are lasting for. So the third one is that the person is not able to function very well in their day-to-day activities as they used to before. So when these three things are present, plus the person is having problems in their thinking, the person is having problem in their mood, the person is exhibiting problems in their behavior or in their relationship with people generally, people in the family, people at work, people in school, in all of these areas, there are problems, or in some of them, there are problems. And you know this is not how this person was before. That is when you should become suspicious that something may be the problem. And we are usually too embarrassed to initiate conversations. We should not be embarrassed. We should please let the person know that you are concerned, you are worried about them because of A, B, C, D that you have seen. And you want to just find out if everything is okay or if there are any challenges and if there's any way you can be of assistance. So this is also answering the questions of question 1 and 2, that if somebody refuses help, what should you do? Or the person is refusing, not ready to draw himself out. What you do is, again, what I'm explaining now. Let them know that you have noticed A, B, C, D, and this is making you worried about them. And so you want to offer assistance, you want to be there for them, you want to help them. But you can only help them when they allow you to help them. If they insist that there's no problem, there is nothing you can do, right? But if they insist that they don't need your help and everything is okay, let them know that, well, you think that there may be a problem, and that if at any time they change their mind, they should please feel free to call you. You will always be here, you will always be ready to assist in any way possible. And so, so you leave the door open. And when you leave that door open, you keep checking on them from time to time. Maybe you pick up the phone and call them. Everything okay. I hope everything is okay. I hope you are doing well, and so on. So they know you are checking on them. They know you've told them you care and you are concerned and worried about them. The day they are ready to talk, they will call you because you have shown them consistently that you are worried and you are concerned. So that is the way to approach it. I think that's those three questions.
Okay. Thank you, sir. This person wants to know if there is any organized structure in place by the HUMA, the Nigeria HUMA, to address mental health issues. I will quickly add one to that. If there is none, sir, what can we do as a HUMA to address mental health issues? And another one, sorry, okay. You said mental illness is in children stems from autism and others. How does this go with the Yoruba adage that says, "Biko bad sita ye ninu e, omo odun meta ko gbodo ya were"? Okay. Can you, okay, let me take another one. Is the 5 P's also relevant for a woman undergoing postnatal depression? And how can we support such women? Maybe you take those ones, sir.
Sorry, what did you say again? I didn't catch the beginning of that, the last one.
Is the 5 P's, the 5 P's you,
right.
Yes, also recommended for a woman undergoing postnatal depression. Then how can we support such women?
Oh, thank you. Absolutely, yes. Right. The way to support her is to ensure postnatal depression is serious. So let me start by mentioning that when a woman has given birth and is suffering postnatal depression, it is a serious condition. We should not take it for granted. And the basis is very simple. When a woman is pregnant, many changes occur in the body of a woman during pregnancy. Sometimes their blood pressure increases. Some of them become diabetic during pregnancy. Because the blood pressure increases because their heart is pumping blood for two people. The blood that are pumping for their body also passes the placenta and goes to supply the baby inside their womb. So the heart is doing double work. So the heart, therefore, sometimes develop hypertension, may develop diabetes. The hormones that the placenta is producing during pregnancy, it increases, first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, then they go into labor. The baby comes out, the placenta comes out, the level crashes to zero. So the woman is tired, exhausted. Everybody say, and she's just tired, doesn't have energy. So that is normal. We call that one postpartum blues. Normal. It becomes depression when those symptoms continue for weeks after delivery. She's not looking after herself. She's not bathing. She's not taking care of the baby. She may just be crying or just lie down there on the bed. She cannot get up. We should not take it with levity. That requires professional. Jump to number 5 of the 5 P's immediately. Why? Because the woman is having severe depression. And in some instances, if you are not careful, she may actually kill the baby because she begins to think that this world is sinful, this world, everything is bad. I brought this innocent baby to come and suffer in this world. They are not taking care of the baby. We've had a woman in Lagos who was suffering from postpartum depression for up to 2 years and ended up drowning her baby in a bucket of water earlier this year. So these are the kind of things that can happen with postpartum depression. So we shouldn't handle it with levity at all. Immediately a woman has delivered and she's having symptoms of depression, please immediately get professional help. Mental illness stems from autism in children. Autism in children is not the only type of mental health problem in children. I just mentioned it as an example. ADHD is another example. Some children during labor, during delivery, the labor may be long, they may have had some minor damage to their brain. And so their intelligence may not be as good as it should be. So there are many things that can happen in children that are mental health problems. And for us, we know that as Muslims, we believe that there is jinn and that there may be, Allah has taught us in the Quran to pray for protection against them and all of that. So, but what we say is that where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the understanding of the treatment of certain conditions, it is now left for us to use that knowledge to our benefit. So seek for treatment, support it with prayers by all means. But what I will not recommend as a mental health professional is to say that I'm going for Rukia alone. I will not go for treatment. No, why not go for treatment and support it with prayers from your imam or from your alpha or with addition, so that they can be either this or that. Why can't they be together? So we are not saying, it's not in my place to say it is spiritual or it is not spiritual. Our own treatment in hospital is to identify what condition is this person having, what treatment will work for it, provide that treatment so that they recover. Inshallah, biznillah, because it's Allah that has given us the understanding of certain things and how to go about it. So that is for the second question. The first question, the organized efforts by the Ummah to promote mental health. I think this kind of lecture is one of those efforts that is focusing on mental health, focusing attention, even the entire series for counselors on how to do counseling effectively and so on. That is part of the organized systemic efforts. But my recommendation would be that the starting point is the family. If the family is cohesive, if the family unit is peaceful, children will grow up secure, resilient, and confident in themselves. And they will have the confidence to talk to their parents when they have challenges. and they will receive support from their family members, which will help them to grow up into responsible adults that can stand on their 2 feet. What we have today is many young people, the father has left the house since 4 a.m., the mother has left the house, the children are left to themselves, they don't have company, the only company they have is video game. And we are outsourcing parenting. So it's the house help and other people that are serving the role of parents, or the father is beating the mother every day, or both of them are boxing each other every day. That is not a peaceful home. That is not a home that will allow a child to grow up in feeling secure in their position in life. So let us start from the Ummah preaching that we should pay attention to our family lives. The Prophet ﷺ told us that he's the best among us, and he's the best among us in the way he treats his family. You cannot be the imam in the mosque and you are treating your family at home poorly. That is not following the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. You cannot be a good Muslim when you are treating your family poorly, because the family is the building block of society, of the ummah. So I would make a passionate appeal to all of us and to our ulama here to also emphasize this from the minbar, that we should pay attention to our family, our children, to our spouses. It is very, 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 very important. Thank you.
Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. We have quite a number of questions, but please, like we did last week, I'd love that somebody help to copy the questions that we have here and post on our main platform, the counseling training platform. We would forward these questions to Dr. Jibril, and inshallah, like Mr. Ogumuyiwa did for us last week, we'll get the responses across to us, inshallah. Because of Salat Maghrib, we will like to round off for the day. So please pardon us if we have not attempted your questions. Definitely you get a response to them. So somebody should help, like we did last week. Somebody should just help us copy the questions that we have not answered here. Alaja Babalola will forward them to Dr. Jubril, and is going to get back to us, hopefully via voice call for each of the questions, voice record for as response to each of these questions, so that we can do justice to them. But I'm sure we are going to learn a lot from the questions people have posted here. I would like to call on our chief missioner, Imam Marufuddin Abdulaziz Onike, to help us appreciate our guest lecturer and to round off today's session till we meet next week, inshallah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Alhamdulillah, 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 Rabbil Alameen. First and foremost, I want to appreciate Dr. Abdul Malik. You have kept me thinking since I started listening to your lecture. We are thought that it's going to be a 1 week thing, one-off thing. We do it on a Saturday like this, and it ends up like that. We realize that we have a long way to go. I think it is better that we have started. It's good that we have started something. It's an effort that we never know that it's going to take a very big dimension. But first and foremost, on behalf of National Rally Party, on behalf of the entire members of our society, I say Jazakumullah khairan kathira to you. You have done justice to the topic, and I was not disappointed at all. I was not disappointed at all. May Allah reward you abundantly. Surah to Quraysh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ila bi Quraysh. Ila bihim ila tashita'i wa sayf. Waliyabudu rabba al-bayt. Alladhi yatiyamu min jun wa amana min khawf. You will assist us. Maybe you are able to draw a kind of curriculum. Our intention is to be organizing this maybe on quarterly basis, by having something on marriage, something on how to educate imam about counseling, then mental health. We now realize that every segment, every module is comprehensive. That they are enough to be tackled individually. If you are talking about mental health, you are talking about depression. It's something that we can spend 1 month on with you in the house. Maybe you help us draw a kind of curriculum and we do a training. We call it mental health or depression, whatever we think you can call it, so as to take our people out of this bad mood, out of this depression. A lot of them are looking for jobs. A lot of them are looking for spouses, and because of that, in fact of the lecture we give, in spite of all the words that they listen to, if they hear from you and they know the consequences of them getting depressed, getting moody, that will help our work too as imams. And we are trying to establish the mind of some Muslims that if you go to an affair, it's good for spiritual assistance. There are some areas that you are just stressing the affairs. There are things that a well-trained person in that area can just say put something for 5-10 minutes, and that person will be out of that problem. And that's why Natural Party is focusing in this area now. That's why we are settling some issues spiritually, we are having spiritual, giving spiritual support. Those who are trained in this area. And that's why when you have Sharia council, Sharia advisors, you won't have it to be made up of only their past. There'll be engineers, there'll be accountants, there'll be every professional be taken care of. That is the goodness of the party want to go now. Mental health, and make it a 1-month program. How to solve depression, how to do this thing. Please, we need your services. We need your services. There are some of the youth are having challenges. They are not getting jobs, and they are getting depressed. You give them as a card to do, they do it. But still, if they hear from the horse's mouth, so to say, and they know the consequences of they are not being lively, maybe they will sit up. Some women are having broken homes and they are depressed. No matter what an apart tells them, still they are getting depressed. But because of your training, because of the experiences, your own approach, we assist whatever an imam want to do. Please, Ajabala will continue to get in touch with you. This training session we end the next 2 weeks. It's supposed to end next week. We are going to give another 1 week to Dr. Hirat. We are going to have a break for 3 months. But within that 3 months, we want you to work with Elijah Wadala and Imam Said and co to draw a curriculum for us. It will be a 1-month program. We can call it a certificate course in we can call it something in form of module. What are the triggers? What are the signs we see? So that every imam that is attending this course, if somebody approaches him, you'll be able to take that person through the rudimentary of the rudimentary aspect of counseling as regard depression. The course is meant, this training session is meant for imams because we want to assist them. Not everything is go and write, go and do this, they will do prayer, but still we need your services. And we are ready to collaborate with you. We are ready to knock on your door every now and then. May Allah reward you abundantly. I commend all the organizers, the Guidance and Counseling Committee members, headed by Raja Babalola, all the imams who have been supporting this initiative. May Allah reward all of you abundantly. And all the participants too. Finally, we want you to give us some questions because we don't want to just be, oh, that lecture is interesting. We want to know that they've understood some major concepts that you have given us today. The one we had last week, our lecturer has given, may Allah reward him, has set the question to us, we are going to put it on our platform and we're going to mark it for our people. We want to know their level of understanding of some of these concepts that you have taught them. Know that, oh, that lecture is interesting. Oh, it's good. We want to know that there are people you have really impacted knowledge into them and they're ready to teach and to apply the knowledge. It's not about listening, it's about applying it. Because that's why we are made some of the participants to be imams. It's meant for the imams. And they be practicalizing all the things that you have taught us today. May Allah reward you. It is time for Maghrib. Inshallah, we'll get back to you. We'll get your contact detail from Alaja Bawala, and Bawala also use our link person to continue to relate with you. We want to have a month program only on depression. Thereafter, we have a month program only on wedding counseling as regards wedding. We'll be taking it one by one. If it, apart from depression, the real psychological problem that people have, you know the languages, you know the terminology, just assist us. That we get people, because of these economic challenges, people are having depression. The middle class is being wiped off systematically. Some of them are having challenges with their businesses. How do you assist them? And it's not something that they will not want to be seen. They will not want to be seen to be contacting an afar. They don't want to be seen to be going to doctors. But if they listen to our lecture, or even if they go to an afar And if I can tell them 1 or 2, 3 things, semi-professionally, not professionally, semi-professionally, they'll be able to get out of their problem, inshallah. I commend all the participants who are dedicated, because today's attendance improved tremendously. We had over 100 people in attendance. That has been unprecedented. We thank you, and we urge you to continue to visit all our platform, our WhatsApp platform, our Telegram, and particularly our LMS. On our LMS, you are going to be seeing some things. We are going to upload the videos. We are going to upload all the course materials. Jazakumullah khairan kasat, everybody. May Allah add it to a scale of good on your Qiyamah. May Allah be with all of us. May Allah continue to allow the party to grow in leaps and bounds. We want to be known for this kind of thing. Our society is a prayer group, and our society is a da'wah group. We want people to know us for those two activities, and that's why we have set up this kind of a thing. That is all of you. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. صلوا على النبي الكريم.
صلى الله عليه وسلم. Imam Saeed, are you still there?
Alhaja Bola, we have closed for the day, okay? Let them go and pray. Or you have a message for them?
It's okay, sir.
If you have a message, I thought you
No.
you have called than me.
No.
And as I said, you have to meet with Dr. Abdul Malik. This goes beyond what we have planned, though.
Yeah, no problem.
We have to do more. We have to do more. He has a lot to offer also. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun alal mursalin.
Alhamdulillah.